and welcome back to another episode of Ask SplitSuit a Question. I'm James SplitSuit Sweeney, here for thepokerbank.com, and today we're going to answer one of your questions. So today's question comes from Drew, and Drew says, recently I've been researching the topic of timing tells for online poker, and I found there's not a whole lot of material on it. With the information I have found, it seems the author claims the tells only apply to players some of the time, and it's hard to tell what works and what doesn't in the long run. I know when observing a player's tendencies this can be much easier, but against unknowns, are there any timing tells you've found to be consistent? Thanks. So first and foremost, what is a timing tell? Well, a timing tell is a piece of information we can glean based upon how long it's taking our opponent to do something. So if we find that a particular opponent is acting very fast when he has big hands, very slow when he has weak hands, and in this particular hand he acts very quickly, we can estimate based upon that timing tell that he has a stronger hand in this particular spot. And that information can be very, very useful. So I'll talk for a moment about what I look for when I'm looking for timing tells. One of the big things I'm trying to do quickly with everyone is establish a baseline. So how long does it typically take them to make an action? So let's say we're playing online and it typically takes someone 2 seconds to make an action. What I try to figure out next is what do the deviances mean? So if they typically take 2 seconds and all of a sudden in this spot they take 1 second, does that mean something? Or if they took, say, 9 seconds, does that mean something? And oftentimes deviances, especially big ones, do tend to mean something. Now when you're playing online, there's obviously a lot of things that can make this very inconsistent that are way out of your control and even out of your knowledge. For instance, say that you are in a spot and this person tends to act in 2 seconds and all of a sudden they take 11. Someone could have come into their room and distracted them, their internet may have dropped out, which may have been slowing up their decision making, so maybe that big deviance doesn't actually mean anything. So it's really difficult, and that's why these kind of things are very inconsistent, but they can be very, very consistent when you're playing live poker, right? So one of the big things I'm looking for in live poker is the Hollywood thing. So someone who looks like they're just deliberating between whether they want to call or fold and then all of a sudden raises, right? That's something that's very easy to figure out. You understand all the distractions that are in their life and in their game right at that moment because you're looking at them so you can see what they're doing. And if someone decides to make that Hollywood action, typically that tends to be a very, very strong hand. It's a very reliable read, especially against someone that you don't deem as a strong player. So definitely make sure you're looking for that one if you're playing in live games. Now, if we switch our focus over to online play for a moment, there are a couple things that I want to talk about. As far as reliable reads or things that I'm heavily looking for, other than, again, establishing that baseline and figuring out what the deviances mean. One of the big things I look for is someone who all of a sudden times down a ton, say it's taking them like 30, 40 seconds, they've hit the time bank, and then all of a sudden they raise. Typically, I kind of correlate that to the Hollywood in a live game, so I tend to find that's fairly reliable, especially amongst people that I don't view as particularly strong players or unknowns. I tend to assume that that's going to be a stronger hand. And then the other thing I'm looking for are regs. So if there's a reg, and I know this reg is playing a lot of tables, what am I thinking that he's probably doing? Well, he's probably looking for the tables that have big hands, and he's paying more attention to those. When he's paying more attention, is he acting quicker or slower? Probably quicker, right? Because he has that table up. He's paying attention to it. He knows what he's going to do. He's thinking about that hand. So if all of a sudden I'm in a spot and this reg acts very, very quickly, I tend to assume it's because he is paying attention to that table because he likes his hand more. Now, if I'm playing with a reg and all of a sudden it takes them a very long time to make a decision, usually what I think is that person is checking their HUD, they're looking through all their stats, trying to figure out if they can have the information to make a tricky play. Maybe it's a light 3-bet or a light 4-bet or something like that. Now, occasionally he is going to be running some sort of Hollywood side play, and yes, I'm going to run myself into a monster, but typically that tends to be a not so strong hand that's just seeing if he can get away with making a certain play. And I tend to find that that's pretty consistent when you're playing online, just because, again, if someone has a hand or a table that they're excited about, they tend to pay more attention to it and they tend to act faster. So if all of a sudden it's taking them a long time, like in a re-steal spot or a light 4-bet spot, definitely keep that in mind. Then the last thing I want to touch on, and this is for online players specifically, is the software Time Mojo, Timemojo. And Time Mojo is an excellent piece of software that you can use for online play. And essentially what it does is starts developing those baselines that I was mentioning, but it does it for you automatically. And it does it for you per action. And it does it for you per street. And it's extremely, extremely useful. So if you're interested in kind of getting more information on that, especially in a very automated way, I would definitely suggest checking it out. And even better, it will randomize your time as well so that you aren't giving away timing tells, which is super, super crucial and helpful. They also have a free trial, so I would definitely suggest checking them out if you haven't already and just see if it works for you. So Drew, thanks for the great question. And if you or anyone else has a poker related hand or question, feel free to leave it on our Google Plus page. I'll leave a link for that in the description box. And also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying these types of videos. It's definitely a great motivator for us. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there and happy grinding.